The photographs shouldn't have existed. The dates made no sense. The deeper they searched Ashcroft, the more impossible the town became. Hidden records, missing people, a sheriff's warning, and a photograph from the future. But the most terrifying discovery wasn't inside the library. It was waiting outside, watching from the forest. And just when they thought they understood the mystery, a new photograph appeared. Fresh, impossible, taken only moments earlier. 4 words were written on the back. You were expected here. What happens next changes everything. And what they found next should never have existed. The photograph was still shaking in my hands when we stepped inside the motel. None of us spoke. We didn't need to. The message on the back of the picture had already said everything. You were expected here. Someone or something had known we were coming long before we ever took that wrong turn. The question was no longer how we had ended up in Ashcroft. The question was why. We locked ourselves inside my room and closed every curtain. Outside, the town looked normal again. People walked along the sidewalks. Cars sat parked outside buildings. The diner was open. The church bell occasionally echoed through the streets. To anyone passing through, Ashcroft might have looked like an ordinary small town. But we knew better. We had seen the impossible photographs. We had read the sheriff's journal. We had watched an entire town point toward a figure standing in the forest. And now we had proof that someone was watching our every move. Ryan paced across the room while Ethan studied the photographs spread across the bed. Sarah sat quietly in a chair near the window. Emily hadn't said much since we left the library. She looked distracted, distant, as though her mind was somewhere else entirely. We're missing something, Ethan finally said. All of this is connected. The disappearances, the photos, the sheriff's journal. Whatever happened in 1957 is still happening. Nobody disagreed. The problem was that we still didn't know why. I pulled out the journal again and reread the final entry. 3 sentences. They found the entrance. They opened the door. God forgive us. The more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that whatever was happening in Ashcroft had started underground, somewhere beneath the town, somewhere hidden. Before I could share the thought, Sarah suddenly stood up. Her face had gone pale. Did you hear that? We all stopped talking. At first I heard nothing. Then it came again. A faint scratching sound, slow, steady, coming from the wall behind us. The room fell silent. The scratching continued. It sounded like fingernails dragging across wood, back and forth, back and forth. Ryan worked toward the wall and pressed his ear against it. The scratching immediately stopped. We waited. Nothing. Then, from the room next door, a voice whispered something. It was too quiet to understand. Emily looked up sharply. Did someone just say my name? Nobody answered. We had all heard it. A whisper, faint, almost impossible to make out. But it had sounded like Emily. The rest of the afternoon passed in uneasy silence. As sunset approached, the atmosphere in Ashcroft began changing again. Store owners closed their businesses. Curtains were drawn over windows. People hurried indoors. The same thing had happened every evening since we arrived. It was as though the entire town feared the darkness. By 7 o'clock, the streets were empty. By 8, the fog had returned. Thick white clouds rolled through the roads and alleys, swallowing entire buildings. Looking out the motel window felt like staring into another world. Then the power went out. Every light in the building died at once. Sarah cursed under her breath. Ethan switched on a flashlight. Outside, the town disappeared beneath the fog. We could barely see 10 feet beyond the window. That's when we heard the footsteps. Slow, deliberate, walking outside the motel. One step, then another. The sound moved past our room and continued down the hallway. Then it stopped. 3 knocks echoed against a nearby door. Silence followed. Then 3 more knocks. Another pause. Then 3 more. The pattern continued. Whatever was outside seemed to be moving from room to room. Knocking. Waiting. Knocking again. None of us moved. The footsteps eventually reached our door. Then everything became quiet. A full minute passed. Then came the knock. 3 slow taps. The sound echoed through the room. Nobody breathed. Another 3 knocks followed. Then silence. My heart felt like it was trying to break through my chest. The handle slowly began turning. Not violently, not forcefully, just slowly, as though whoever stood outside already knew the door was locked. After several seconds, the handle stopped moving. Then the footsteps continued down the hallway and disappeared. Nobody spoke for a long time. Eventually, exhaustion caught up with us. One by one, everyone drifted off to sleep. Or at least they tried to. I stayed awake. Something about the night felt wrong. More wrong than usual. Around 2 in the morning, I noticed Emily wasn't in the room. At first, I assumed she had gone to the bathroom, but 10 minutes passed, then 20. I stepped into the hallway and called her name. No answer. The motel was silent. Every room door remained closed. I checked the lobby, empty. The parking lot, empty. The diner across the street, dark. There was no sign of her anywhere. Panic began building in my chest. I woke the others immediately. Within minutes, we were searching the entire motel, every room, every hallway, every storage closet. Nothing. Emily had vanished. Then, Sarah found something. A small notebook lying on Emily's bed. We gathered around as she opened it. Most pages were blank, but near the back, a single sentence had been written repeatedly across multiple pages. The same sentence over and over. They're watching from the trees. They're watching from the trees. They're watching from the trees. My stomach dropped. When did she write this? Ryan asked. Nobody knew. We continued searching until dawn. As the first sunlight appeared, we noticed something strange outside. Footprints. A single trail of footprints leading away from the motel and toward the forest. We followed them through town. The residents watched from windows but never came outside. Nobody tried to stop us. Nobody tried to help. The trail eventually ended at the edge of the woods. The footprints continued between the trees and disappeared into the fog. That's where we found the camera. It was Emily's, lying on the ground beside an old tree stump. The battery was somehow still working. My hands trembled as I turned it on. Hundreds of photographs filled the memory card. Most showed random parts of Ashcroft, buildings, streets, the clock tower. Then the images changed. The final photographs had all been taken during the previous night. They showed the forest beyond town, dark shapes standing between trees, tall figures watching from a distance. In every picture, they appeared slightly closer, slightly clearer. The final image made my blood run cold. It was a photograph of Emily herself, standing among the trees, staring directly at the camera. But she wasn't holding it. Someone else was. And behind her stood dozens of shadowy figures emerging from the fog, watching, waiting. The timestamp showed the picture had been taken only 3 hours earlier. Ryan slowly lowered the camera. Nobody spoke. Nobody knew what to say. Then Ethan noticed something written in the corner of the image. A message scratched into the bark of a nearby tree. 4 simple words. She belongs to them now. The forest around us suddenly became silent. Completely silent. No wind, no birds, nothing. Then, somewhere deep among the trees, we heard a voice. Faint, distant, calling our names. It sounded exactly like Emily, and it was coming from deeper inside the woods.